Okay, great. I just actually got a note from Capital One that will go ahead and get started. So with that, like I said, I gave a little intro of Elle Michelle Smith, but I want to go ahead and toss it over to you. No one can introduce themselves better than themselves. So let's go ahead and hop into that keynote. Like I said, today we'll be doing resilience in COVID-19. Off to you.
Awesome. Let me share my screen here. Well, first I'll just say hello. Let's see. All right. Hi, everybody. I'm Elle Michelle Smith. I am the CEO and founder of No Silos Communications, LLC. I am the lead certified executive and business coach at that organization. It's a tech media and content company. And we actually take strategic communications and leadership development and blend it, because we believe that you can't lead unless you communicate. And it's so important in this digital age that we're in that leaders know how to do that. We pride ourselves in developing rock star leaders that thrive at the intersection of tech, culture, and business. And what better time than now, in the midst of this pandemic, to have a conversation with entrepreneur moms, especially. So without further ado, I'm going to share my screen and we will run through my keynote really quickly. And I encourage you, if you are in the chat, I think I'll be able to see chat from other folks. If you have questions, I will make sure towards the end there that I will respond to your questions as we go. All righty. All righty, let's present here. Okay, I'm hoping everybody can see. I can only see my screen because I'm in presentation mode. So again, if you have questions, go on and put them in the chat. I'll be sure to answer them when we get to Q&A when I close up this full screen. All right, resilience in the age of COVID-19. As I mentioned, my company has a few different aspects to it. We are tech, content, and media. And we have 6 different brands that happen. There's my brand. I'm a speaker and an author, but then I have some other brands, the coaching side of the business, and then the consulting side of the business, which of course delivers a deliverable to the client. And then finally, the Culture Soup podcast, which is my podcast. It's been one of the top business podcasts in business news. It was at number 10 in the top 10. Number 6 for about a year, and it stays in the top 200 even when we're doing reruns. And then we have No Silos Communications Group, which I don't say too much about. And the reason is because I did communications and integrated marketing for 26 years of my career. And while a lot of people know me for that, it's not what I'm leading with these days. But every once in a while, someone who's on a very short list of a premier and top name brands will come to me and say, hey, I need some help. So I have a brand to handle that. And then there's NSC e-learning. And that used to be the 30-minute mentor. And that's where we have all sorts of learning content, online webinars, masterclasses, and audiocasts. And a little bit about me. In business, I like to say I've lived it. I've been in and out of corporate America and also a serial entrepreneur and intrapreneur throughout. Tech, culture, and business are part of my value proposition, which means it's a part of my story. It's one problem that I solve for my clients, but it's also where I literally live. And you'll find that on the Culture Soup podcast that I invite my friends on who actually sit at that intersection. And that is where we want these leaders to thrive. We live in a time where culture is so important, not just in our mainstream society, but as we're looking at the workplace and small business culture and the microcultures that come along with it. Technology is driving everything. And if you haven't figured it out by now, COVID-19 has forced the issue. Many of us weren't as digital as we were, 5 weeks ago? And now we're all thrust into it. This was going to happen anyway, whether COVID-19 happened or not. And of course, in the business realm, it's all about entrepreneurship for me and also about that corporate life. Again, I'm a certified executive and business coach. I'm an elite communicator, and I made VP before I was 30. at one of those global agencies. And that was about the time that I launched out on my first entrepreneurial pursuit. I literally fell into entrepreneurship after freelancing, after 9/11 happened. I just wanted to see what I could do. I was re-examining life, a lot like crisis make us do. Re-examining life, thinking I'll freelance for a while and then I'll re-enter, and the contracts got bigger and bigger. And I literally had to hire on people. I scaled that company to 7-figure sales in less than 5 years, built and I won awards there, but I also built award-winning businesses inside of a Fortune 10. You may know the name of it, AT&T. And I have about 26 years experience. Now, I've also lived life. I was born and raised in Dallas, Texas. And if you've taken the Myers-Briggs, you are probably familiar with these 4 letters. I'm an extroverted, intuitive, thinking, perceptive, which means that that E is kind of interesting, because while I can be on and talk to you, and I'm actually a professional singer on sabbatical, I have very high I tendencies, meaning I'm introverted too. So as soon as this is done, you can almost guarantee that I'm going to go somewhere and decompress on my own. I have one sister. There she is sitting with me on the sofa there as a little baby. Her name is Joyce. She's a PhD in education. And I have awesome, quirky parents that literally live 10 minutes away from me. I built my house only moments away from them when Joni and I, my daughter, launched out on our own, built this house, and Joni feels like she has 3 houses because my sister literally lives 90 seconds away. We can walk down the street to her house. I did that as a mom because I needed that support system, and I can continue to work in my business. I could travel the nation. If I needed to leave the country, I could, and I knew that she was safe and secure. She's a 2nd grader now, going into the 3rd grade. But what's interesting about her is that she is a Gen Zer, and she kind of brings up the tail on Gen Z. If you know anything about Gen Z, they are the most multicultural generation out there. In fact, 1 in 2, every 2 babies born in 2012 was a baby of color. So Joni fits that. And as a student of culture, I learned these stats and I apply it to business. I live in Cedar Hill, Texas, and I mentioned I'm a professional singer on sabbatical. Let's jump right into the challenge. We're talking about leading in a very new and fractured digital economy. In fact, when I've shared this before, this keynote before, it didn't say fractured. It just said digital economy. And most of us know what that digital economy really is about. It is an economy that's driven by everything digital. I call them weapons of mass innovation. But now it's fractured because our economy, our very way of life has changed in such a way that moving forward is going to be different. In fact, it's different now, and we have to be ready for that. Here's what we're looking at. We've got shaky consumer confidence right now. It's incredibly competitive despite what's going on. We have predictions that we're going to have a 32% unemployment rate. Right now, we're at about 14.7, which means that consumers are not spending. The stay-at-home orders alone have hurt small businesses and large ones as well. Although there are some thriving industries, small businesses were the first ones to get hit. So we're struggling. But again, we're seeing more technology. In fact, a lot of the technology that already exists has come to the forefront. Some of you as small businesses like myself were already using Zoom. And I joked because most of my client meetings are on video conference. When I interview people for my podcast, it's on Skype. I've used freeconferencecall.com. We've all used these things. And I felt like, you know what? Welcome to my world. And then we saw Zoom try and scale massively and then run into some issues with privacy and such. But we're seeing more and more of it. And we're also having to not just use it, but lead with it. You know, as moms, it's so important that we tap into who we are, because as mothers, there are different things that we can do. and skills that we bring to the table that other folks don't. One of those is, the fancy word for it is innovation. Yeah. The way I like to say it is making something out of nothing. How many of us have been able to take an idea and parlay it into something bigger? We've done that with our own businesses, but we do it in our homes. We also multitask, right? We've got the baby in one arm, right? We're bouncing her over here. But then on the other hand, we've got client calls going on. We know how to do that. But you know what? We have to be even more resilient because of what is happening right now. I like to say that this impacts our mind, body, and soul. And in our hierarchy, the hierarchy that my company puts out there for the way to take care of your life, because there is a straight line between your personal and your professional life. There's no separating the two. I know our friends in corporate tend to sometimes want to divide that and say, I'm a professional. I have my professional brand and then I have my personal brand. But I have news for you. This crisis has blown the cover off of that. If you want to be that authentic leader, there's a straight line in between. And more, even our corporate sisters are seeing that life is happening under one roof. Work, home, family, relationship, children, school, everything's happening under one roof. And if you were the kind that had a business that was offsite, like myself, my office is in an office building around the corner, a few miles from here. I don't go in anymore. Everything's happening here. And that 7-year-old daughter, she's being homeschooled at least for the next 2 days. And I can't wait for that to be over. We're talking about uncertain times here, people. So the question is, how are you to be resilient during a time that you don't even know what's next? Let's talk about what resilience actually is. Resilience doesn't mean that you are, just absolutely, tough as nails and you don't bend. You actually bend. You don't break. That's the difference between someone that is thinking that, they're just so tough as nails. This means that you are actually not so tough as if you're tough enough. And that means that it gives you the ability to feel whatever you need to feel. And that's one thing as women, sometimes we don't do. We don't allow ourselves to feel. And that's where that bending comes in. So the question is, are you tough enough? And I'd like to say as moms in business, I think we are. I want you to answer that question for yourselves because you may have some doubts. You may be struggling right now, but I'm going to give you some tools here in a minute that will allow you to think through these things and answer that question. And hopefully you'll come to the conclusion that you are indeed tough enough. What you want to do is to be able to lead through change. And y'all, change happens 2 ways. One, it happens when it's thrust upon us. And this has happened to us. No one asked for COVID-19, but it's here. It's been thrust upon us. But the one way that we can actually begin to control some of that change is when we take change by the horns. And that's the other way change happens, is when you implement it. Now, change isn't always pretty. In fact, right now, we know it's not pretty. But we know that sometimes change affords us opportunity. So it requires a positive mindset. We're going to talk about how to get there. That may be difficult because some days you get up. I know it's the truth for me. I get up some days and I'm like, I'm going to do it. I have my to-do list. I know exactly what I'm going to do. I have client meetings. I have my sessions and I'm like, go, go, go. And other days, I don't want to get out of the bed. One thing that you have to give yourself room for is to realize that each and every one of us, even if we have not been impacted by the health issue, and many people have, we have all been traumatized. Traumatized in that whole lots of our being, that our existence, our life has been canceled. It's also been postponed. And to do that suddenly, y'all, it's similar to death. When something is taken away from you, your body wants to grieve. And when we don't give ourselves that room to grieve, there's no way to get back to the positive the way we should. So we'll talk a bit about how to deal with that uncertainty and get to that positive mindset, understanding that we've all been traumatized. And guess what resilience does? It weathers storms when others give up. Ladies, no should be your fuel. The letter in the word N-O with the letters N-O, the word no should be your fuel. You're going to hear no and you're going to see no over and over and over and over again. But that's what separates an entrepreneur from everybody else. Let's get going. So number one, again, I said there's a straight line between your personal and your professional. If you aren't your best you cannot perform at your best. So in this hierarchy that I've shared with Fortune 500 executives and also with small businesses, we put self at the top of the pyramid. And that means you need to ask yourself this question. And I hope that you're journaling. If you have something to write down with, ask yourself this question and write down the answer. What can you do to promote self-care? Again, mind, body, and spirit. Now let's keep it real for a second. We as women and we as moms tend to put everybody and everything else first. Who can give me hands up emojis? That's like the truth, okay? We put everybody but ourselves first. But I'm asking you to flip the paradigm, because if you're well, you will perform well. So why not put your mind, body, and spirit first? For your mind, that may be carving out some white space. We're going to talk about that too. But reading, listening to podcasts, if you're of faith, leaning into your faith, listening to words of wisdom that can propel you forward. If it's your body, are you moving? Are you getting outside? Are you walking? Are you running? Are you doing that thing that keeps you moving and keeps your body healthy? Are you eating correctly? I don't know how many times I saw memes on Instagram, on Facebook, on TikTok of people just gorging with junk food. But I got to tell you, that was part of that comfort that our bodies needed that we overlooked in the very beginning when we didn't realize we were traumatized. But now that we know, are we putting the good things in us that will help us to optimize our performance? Mind, body, and spirit. Think about those things. You need to shift your priorities so that self is top, home and family is in the middle. And you know what? By the way, work is kind of seeped in the home. And then career and business. That may sound backwards because so many folks want to prioritize career and business first. But let me tell you, if you are not well, your business will not be well. So what do you need to do to carve out 30 minutes a day for only you? I'm not talking about your lunch break. That's already there. You need that. I'm not even talking about that extra break that you might have said that you thought you were taking, where you were on audio instead of video and you took the walk. I'm talking about 30 minutes set aside, despite what you do already, just for you. What will you do at that time to self-care? Let's keep going. Another way to exercise resilience and get to that resilient point is to exercise gratitude. Some people do this in the morning. Some people do it in the evening before they go to bed with their journals. Some people, like me, I'm consistently saying I'm thankful. When I think about it, I just say, you know what? I'm so grateful that, and I fill in the blank. This is about shifting your attitude, okay? We've shifted our priorities. Now we're going to shift our attitude. We're going to go from, man, I wish I could just get out and go do what I used to do, to, you know what? I'm grateful to have this business. I'm grateful to have this home where I can work from home and be safe. I'm grateful for my health. I'm praying for everyone out there, but I'm so glad that I'm able. Do you see? You shift the perspective from the bad things that are happening to noticing the good things that are happening. And that's one thing that's counterintuitive in a crisis. It is very easy to get bombarded with the news streams on your devices, but then also on cable news, all the bad news coming in. Sometimes you have to shift gears, turn that off, turn the volume down, and realize that you have things to be grateful for. So in the morning, some people like to journal in the morning to start their day, and it gets them off on a good foot. It shifts their attitude. It gives them a positive state of mind. It propels them forward. Still others like to do it at night because that's their opportunity to clear their mind, be grateful, and then have a pleasant night's sleep. This, again, is a lot of the self-care that you can do, but this is from a spirit perspective. It produces hope, and let me tell you a secret. There are no goals without hope. Think about it. How can you set a goal without forward-looking, without vision? You literally have to hope that your goal can happen. So you want to make sure that you shift your attitude for gratitude so that you can produce some hope and you can set some goals that are not just measurable, but attainable, and you are ready and fit to go after it. This is part 2 of resilience. So let's go to part 3. What can you do to move your business forward? Now, some people have looked at this shutdown and the lockdown and the stay-at-home orders and said, oh my goodness, I have so much time on my hands. I'm bored. That just blows my mind. It blows my mind. But I get it. I get it because suddenly we're out of our norm and we have time on our hands. Rock star leaders see the time on their hand and say, what will I do with the time? Okay? After you've picked yourself up off the floor, after you felt what you felt, you ask yourself, what can I do to move my business forward? Now, for some, you might be thinking, well, I had to shut my doors because I was in retail and we were mandated to close our doors. What could you do in the meantime? Could you lean into digital to start to offer services that are also very related to the business that you're in? Can you offer delivery services? I heard the story of cleaners up in Frisco, very successful cleaning franchise, family owned. And, people weren't going to work. So they weren't taking their clothes in to get them dry cleaned. They weren't wearing the suits anymore. People were wearing sweats at home. So guess what they did? They leaned into the insight that people were going to use their laundry more. But since they weren't going to come out to their business, they offered a laundry delivery service door to door. Shift your mindset is what we're talking about here. This creates a resilient person through and through. If you shift your mindset to move from what can't I do to what can I do using the tools and the technology that's there for you. I'll give you another example. Makeup artists, beautypreneurs, that's what I call them. Hairstylists, the ones that were waiting on that May 8th, May 15th date, I can't remember which one it was, to reopen, and many of them are still afraid. Many of them were sitting at home just waiting on pins to know when they reopened, when they had all of this white space, to think about what they could do in the meantime and make money. Let me tell you what some of the smart ones were doing. They were either booking appointments up front and charging up front so that, beat the rush, get your reservation in, right? So they had income still coming in. Some of them did gift cards, electronic gift cards. Some of them decided to go in and do the whole relationship marketing through email to stay in touch, but then also offer a referral fee. So they were using the word of mouth through digital to say, gee, my hairdresser is so good. If I can get this client who's very faithful to refer me with this coupon code, I can double my customer base by the time I get back in my shop. Still others were doing digital makeup tutorials on YouTube. Why not? And charging for it. In fact, my makeup artist was so smart. She was literally going out on maternity leave when the lockdown happened. And she was about, oh gosh, she was 9 months pregnant. She was on her way. And I had to do a segment on Channel 5. And usually she does my makeup before I go on the air. And of course, it was going to happen from home, right here where you're looking at me. And she offered to come and do my makeup. She was going to put on the gloves. And this is before the lockdown was completely on. And it gave me the willies. From the little bit that I knew about COVID-19, I knew that you didn't have to present to carry, right? So who knew if I had it, right? And I could not, for the life of me, risk the life of my makeup artist and her unborn baby. Just couldn't do it. I just couldn't. And she was like, I'd be safe. I was like, no. And you know what I offered her? I offered her to give me a makeup tutorial online and I would pay her full price. That's the way, she started to look at things from then on. And she launched a series of ebooks, and also her physical book launched just as she was going into the hospital to have this baby. Now, this is a great example of how someone took change by the horns before change was thrust on them. And guess what? She was ready to weather the storm of COVID-19, not even knowing that COVID-19 was coming, because she already planned what she was going to be doing to make money while she had the baby. This is the mind shift that you need to make. So I want to ask you, what one thing can you commit to shift your business into high gear during this tough time? Think about it and write it down. Doesn't have to be something to boil the ocean. And as you can tell, there were some very, very simple shifts that I described in business that you might be able to apply to a totally different business, or it might have sparked something else. Let's look at the next one. Shift your demeanor. Own your happy, girl. You got to own it, because here's the thing. You're in charge of it. No one else controls it. You might allow someone to control it or something to control it. But at the end of the day, applied positive psychology, and that's what my certification in coaching is based in, says that you, girl, own your own happiness. So what are you going to do about it? Okay? Where is your happy place? I love to ask my clients that question because it usually stops them right in their tracks. The busyness, the group meetings before COVID, and even now with the happy hours, the virtual happy hours and the virtual play dates and we're even doing church online. Our screen time has quadrupled, maybe even 10 times, more than quadrupled. Maybe it's times 10. We're always looking at the screen. But when are we taking time for our happy place? Do you even know what your happy place is? Have you forgotten it? I'll tell you mine. Mine is walking around the neighborhood with earbuds in my ear or my Beats headphones and listening to my favorite tunes. For some of you, you're going to say it's that jetted tub back there with bubble bath in it. Some of you may not be able to physically get to your happy place because of where we are now, but how can you create that? It's very important that you can find that space where you are your happiness. And by the way, it's not connected to anyone else. So you can't say, it's kind of cheating to say my happy place is with my kid. No, we're talking about your happy place alone by yourself. Do you need to remove some things? Now, this may even be about the physical space in your home. Have you a place in your home where you can exit, where you can staycate, where you can vacate in your own house and just be you? Have you seen the trend of the she sheds? My sister literally has an art studio built in her backyard. That's her happy place. It's a physical place. She takes my daughter back there and teaches her art. But you know what? When my daughter's not there, she's got every creature comfort she ever needs. She has a little refrigerator. She has electricity back there. She even has a little window unit with the air conditioner. Her she shed is her happy place. What do you need to remove to make your happy place exist? You might need to take something away. Okay? Research shows that happy people are successful people. It's not the other way around. Many of us believe that to be successful is to be happy. And research has shown that that's not the way it happens. If you seek success first, thinking that it will make you happy, you will be disappointed. If you seek happiness first, you'll have everything that you need to move your life forward and be successful. And finally, here's what you need to do. You need to shift the uncertainty. And you might be like, Michelle, how do you shift the uncertainty? We don't control the uncertainty. You don't, but you can control what's certain. What you need to do is ask yourself, what do you know to be true? Okay? Think about that hierarchy, whether it's for self, for your home and family, and for your career and business. What do you know to be true? I'll give you a great example. Here's what I know to be true. My daughter's school will be wrapped up on Tuesday. That's something that I know, okay? So her homeschooling is going to ramp down. I can therefore plan for the next 2 weeks until she starts her tutoring to get ready for 3rd grade. I can plan the next 2 weeks activities for my daughter because I grasp on the knowns. Now, there are some unknowns, and you need to note those too. One of the unknowns that I have for my daughter is this. I don't know if the fall semester will even be on campus. So how will I react to that? Contingencies, okay? You can't plan for everything, but I'm sharing with you how to insert certainty into uncertainty. And you know the word for that? We call it a plan. You got to do some tea leaf reading, some forecasting, okay? As leaders in your businesses, you do this with the numbers. I bet you each and every one of you know what you need to do to finish strong in 2020. Have you done that in your life? Because if you do it in your life, it makes doing it in your business even easier because you're freed up. It's all one continuum, your life, your career, your business, all one thing. So you're going to exert your own certainty into the uncertainty. And guess what that's going to give you? Some peace of mind. This is just like giving structure to your kids. When they came home and work converged with school, what was the first thing you did? You put together a schedule. So you knew exactly what you were going to do every day in the midst of the pandemonium. You need to exert certainty into your uncertainty. So what I want to ask you is this. What can you do to add more structure to your day, to your week? And if you can actually look out about 60 days, try it. Just chunk it. Try 60 days at first. Map out the things that you know to be true. Note the things that you know are unknowns and see how you can plan against it. Finally, this is what I want to leave you with. How will you move forward based on what we've described? How you're going to shift your mindset, how you're going to shift your demeanor, how you're going to shift your priorities. Can you commit to a plan? One of the first things I'm going to ask you to do is to denote the thing that you want to let go of. How many of you are held back because you're holding on to one thing? Maybe two things. For some of you, it's fear. For some of you, it's fear of technology. For others of you, it's fear of the uncertainty. Some of you are just afraid of this COVID-19, and for very good reasons you should. But again, try to apply those principles. What do I know to be true? What don't I know? And that's going to allow you to exert some amount of control in a life that seems to be out of control. Now, I'm also going to ask you to journal through these answers, these questions that I've raised throughout this presentation. Because if you do that, you will have the very seedlings and the beginnings of a strategic plan that will move your life and business forward. And that's all I have for you. I will be open to taking questions. I'm going to close up this window and see what I need to do to get some Q&A going. Where should I look, Delaney, for the chat?
Go over to the chat box and toggle over to event.
Events. Gotcha.
Yeah. Yep.
Oh, good. I see some people I know too. Hi, Jennifer Little.
Yeah, everybody loved it.
Oh, good. I see a lot of yes. Good. Yes, we do. So good. So many things I can be doing to get ready now for what I know to be true later. Yes, Jennifer, you're right. Sister, you're dropping so many gems. I can't write fast enough. You know what? Taisha, thank you. You know what, Delaney, is it possible to make this deck available afterwards, or I can just put it up on my website?
What we can do, we can make the deck available, and we can also, as long as you're okay with it, download the video and send it out afterwards to the attendees.
Yeah. Great. You know what? I'm going to switch back one more time just so everybody can see how to connect with me on social. Make sure I have the right.
It looks like we had a couple of questions pop up as well.
Oh, good. Awesome. Okay. Let me handle this really quickly. I guess it's going to be that one. I think I lost my window. I might have closed it. Let's see. Oh, I know where to go. All right. Just so you guys can follow me on social media, I'm going to put this up while I'm talking. There we go. I'm also on TikTok, and I will bust a move in the name of leadership. So let's see. How do you manage launching a business while being the best mom you can be? Sorry, I think I missed that. Okay. You know what? Here's the thing, Isabel. You need to figure out what is your biggest priority. Put that first. Okay. Now, it sounds like to me that you want to launch that business and you want to be a good mom. Remember the hierarchy that I gave you: self, home and family, career and business. Now, the only way to be the best mom is to be your best self. You got to do that first, okay? And the only way to really have a great business is to be happy at home. You agree with that? So there's going to be some juggling that you're going to do. There's no doubt you're going to juggle, but there are also going to be some things that you got to let go of. I'll give you a great example. I literally am making a decision right now to move to another school district so that my daughter can go to a school. She's in private school right now. Go to a school where she literally grows up in the same neighborhood with the kids that she goes to school with. It's something I didn't get to do because I went to private school. But I also saw the opportunity to downsize, because calling off the housekeepers at this house really did help me to know how big and uncontrollable this house really is. I'm not on the road all the time traveling, you know, and when you're not home as much, you don't mess up as much, right? I'm cooking 3 meals a day and no housekeepers. And I'm like, if we continue in this situation, this is my opportunity to downsize. So I'm going to let go of this big, beautiful house. Okay. But I'm going to go to a smaller house where I also have the opportunity to get out of debt. Okay. And what can I do about getting out of debt? How can that feed my business? Oh my gosh. Number one, I don't have to make as much. If we're living right around the corner from the school, I can walk my daughter to school, right? Most mornings. I got rid of my commute. You see how this goes? You have to figure out what your core values are and what those priorities are, and then work against that plan. And you can be a great mom and have an incredible business. I hope that helps. Let's see. Taisha is a mom of 5. Ooh, girl. Yeah. Wow. I applaud you just for that first few words. Work full time and run my business as a side hustle for now. Okay. Do you have any tips to help with focusing? It's hard right now with me being pulled in so many directions and I'm struggling to focus. Okay. I've never had 5 kids before. I'll tell you that. But I have run a business. In fact, launched this business while working at the Fortune 10. And let me tell you what I did. There is a concept in psychology called chunking. chunking, chunking. And all that means is that you take off a little bit at a time. Okay. Our minds can only remember so many things in a row. And the theory of chunking is that if you have 3 or 4 things in a list, our brains can consume it. Okay. So here's what I want you to do, Taisha. I want you to find those little opportunities of white space. You have 5 kids. I don't know what the schedule is. It sounds like it's a little nuts. But when Joni was in school, and we weren't in COVID-19, that's for sure, and she was in dance, I would get her after school, take her to home, change her, get her out to the place to do her dance workout and routine and practice. And I found a little bit of space in that time frame, 15 minutes, 20 minutes while she's dancing, to commit to do something, okay? And during that time, I was launching my podcast. So I told myself, I'm going to give myself 45 days to launch this podcast, but every day I'm going to commit at least 15 minutes to doing something towards that. Now, this is where the tortoise beat the hare, okay? The tortoise was consistent, and he did little bitty baby steps, but he never quit, okay? And that's how he outpaced the hare. I literally did something towards the podcast every day, even though my mom was going into the hospital and I knew we were going to have to juggle childcare because she helps me with that. We were doing all of that, and I was able to launch early. And I look back and I'm like, how in the world did I do that? It's because I found those little bitty chunks of time, and I committed those chunks of time with dedication and consistency. So it's going to be up to you, Taisha, to find out where you can wiggle in those moments. One other mom asked me just the other day how to do this. She had 3 kids at home. And I said, well, I don't know how old your kids are. And she told me it was like 5, 7, and 10. And I said, well, you have a couple of helpers there. Somebody can help you. Where can you offload? Can you start giving that kid a chore that would allow you to free up some time to do something towards you? But Taisha, I got to tell you, you've got to prioritize self-care even before you're able to bite this off. Because if you're not well, if you're not healthy, if you're not, you don't have the stamina, adding 1 or 2 more things, no matter how small it is going to sound like, oh my God, overwhelming. So I hope that helps. Anybody else?
I think we're just about out of time, but the great thing is, our speaker will be over in our sessions, which we will do in a bit. You can leave now and head over there. We'll wrap up things on this end. But yeah, so as we finish up today, and also what an amazing keynote. That was I'm not a mom, and there were wonderful takeaways for me. I was like, these are just great takeaways of life.
Good.
So awesome keynote. Thank you so much. I'll let you head over that way to the sessions. But
bye-bye, everyone.
Yes, everyone. Thank you so much to all of our speakers today. What amazing speakers. I felt like there were so many great takeaways from everybody. And we appreciate all of you guys coming in here today. We are going to try to give a minute for someone from Capital One to come in and say a little something. As mentioned, this is WEDallas is a program that we do with Capital One all year for years now. There's 4 events a year. But with that, Jen did seem to hop on, so I'll let her pass it over and say a little bit about that. And then afterwards, I'll have a few short snippets about the sessions, the expo, and a special gift that we're going to be sending y'all's way. So make sure to stay after Jen speaks so I can give y'all a little bit more information on that. But Jen, off to you.
Great, thanks so much. And apologize for the technical difficulties before and for crashing Brittany and Tinsley for a moment when I didn't realize that I was actually on video. I think that's all par for the course in this strange new reality. So just really quickly, my name is Jen Garbach. I lead our brand and acquisition marketing for the small business division at Capital One. We have been a partner with this group for the last 5 years, and just really excited to continue to have a forum that is, exactly like this, for entrepreneurs, for a group that is so incredibly resilient, demonstrated by the fact that the event itself has adapted to so I don't want to take up much more out to me of both this group of entrepreneurs getting together and this group of female mom entrepreneurs getting together. And it's this notion of in general, on the entrepreneurial journey, knowing that there are so many opportunities to connect with one another, to create those meaningful moments of reinforcement. And what better time than right now to really continue doing that? Not just on each of your individual journeys as business owners and entrepreneurs, but holy heck, I mean, the job of being a working mom, going out on your own and starting your own business, like, it's hard as it is. It's even harder when you're living in a time where you myself an unaccredited daycare at home with a 5-year-old and popping up. We're really excited to just have a very small part in helping sponsor this event. And just kudos to everyone here for not only making the leap of faith to go at it like on your own and really follow a passion or follow an opportunity, but for making the time when it's hard right now. It's hard to find ways to get away from the day-to-day. It's hard to create that structure. And you just heard like the great keynote around like creating the support structures and reinforcements that are needed to power you on this powerful journey. So just hope this has been a really great and exciting time for each of you to create some connection and to create a time for you to just focus on something that is clearly meaningful and an important part of the work that you're doing. Thanks, and a virtual.
Thank you so much, Jen. But yeah, no, thank you everybody for coming. Like I said, we will have, and I saw that I went and checked it out. Some of y'all have already headed over to some of the sessions. Some of them are getting started, but there are, if you use the toolbar on the left, there are some sessions to go to, include a cocktail mixer. If you loved Elle Michelle Smith's presentation, she is doing a session about effective leadership during this time and really being able to still do that even virtually and how you can do that. There'll also be a mindfulness moment with some certified psychologists if you're, in the state of, how do I just keep myself mindful right now? How do I keep myself in a good mental state? A lot of things that Michelle Smith was talking about. So that would be a great one to pop into as well. And then, of course, as mentioned, there is the Mother's Marketplace going on over in the expo. Her story will be in there, as well as some other great female mother-owned brands. So please check those out. Shop small, shop some of your local entrepreneurs, and there are some discounts in there to help you guys shop small. And then also afterwards, be on the lookout for an email from us in Capital One. We will be sending out some special little gifts for you guys. Obviously, we are so sad we can't be together in person right now. So hopefully this is a great little way to, still have that happy hour experience and a little something from us to reach out to you and, say, we miss events. We miss seeing all you guys. So hopefully you guys will take advantage of that. It's free. So look for that email coming in your inbox after the event. But with that, again, thank you so much. Big thank you to Capital One. None of this would be possible without them. And also, follow us on social media as the DEC Network. Like I said, WEDallas is an event that happens all year. We do 4 events throughout the year, so be on the lookout for other events we have coming up. We'd love to see you at one of those. But with that, head on over to the sessions and the expo, and I will see you guys next time. Thanks so much. Bye.